You're such an asshole.
Asshole consulting. We're going to do the same old tired argument coming from the left. I'm getting tired of it. Oh, let's start with this. You're not going to the client who's asking. You're not going to convince people who want to believe in the Nordic Scandinavian model that socialism sucks. You're just not, because understand this. People want to believe in socialism and communism because it means free shit. It means other people's money. And if you think the strength of belief to a religion like a born-again Christian or a Muslim terrorist or any kind of cultist or whatever, if you think that's a strong belief, you're just not going to overcome the belief that people are entitled to other people's money. And so we can point out all the technicalities or the statistical outlying nature of the Nordic socialist European model. And we can say, well, it only kind of works in Norway and Sweden. And, oh, by the way, Norway's got a shit ton of oil. We can point this out all day. You're not going to convince the true believers that this is a statistical oddity or something specific to Nordic cultures and people. Because they choose to believe it. And you cannot reason or rationalize anyone who chooses to believe in something. So I just want to go there from the onset. So let's go through the question. A young man writes, hey, so I'm sure you've heard from Bernie Sanders supporters and leftists how great Scandinavian countries are doing with their version of democratic socialism. Here's a brief Bloomberg article on a supposed economic miracle in Sweden that has been happening the past few years to show you this is not a falsehood. You see these every once in a while. Oh my God, Norway was the future in the 90s. That was the future. And then they just conveniently forgot to mention a third of its GDP comes from oil. And oil is evil because that causes global warming. But somehow that's good. So he provides a link. Sweden has had higher average economic growth than the OECD, meaning first world countries, basically. And because this country of what? I think Sweden's got 5.5 million people. Because this country with 5.5 million people has socialism successful. We should apply it to the remaining 6.995 billion people on the planet. See, it works in Sweden, so you should just apply it everywhere. You know, ice fishing is fun in Minnesota. We should all go ice fishing in Belize. Just put your little ice fishing rack right out there on the... Don't worry, you could be Jesus walking the water. There's no differences between cultures and environments and societies and economies. So he provides a link there. I'm not going to mention it. And I do not doubt the numbers. Fine, Sweden is growing faster than average. Right? Pretty much everything I understand about economics would lead me to believe that the Scandinavian model can't work. High taxes and a large welfare net is a recipe for disaster, so why are these Scandinavian countries doing so well? Well, what am I missing? If you want to do some actual research on this subject, I'll pay. Also, I'd like a video response. Thanks. So I did know some things about, because I've gone down this road multiple times before, and I did brush up on some numbers. So let's talk about what the Scandinavians are doing correctly. There are some things that the Nordic Scandinavian models of their economies do, I would say, better than the United States or capitalist countries around. For example, nationalized health care. We in the United States, it's just appalling how much we spend on health care because of insurance companies, corrupt government, socialists, leftists who all want free shit. So we spend now with Obamacare is probably 17% of our GDP on health care, both public and private. Whereas countries like Sweden, Switzerland, a lot of these European countries, they have nationalized health care for less than half that cost. So, whereas I'm against nationalized health care of any kind on principle, they do manage it better with the single-payer system. What we got is this fucking Frankenstein of a monster combination public-private sector, and it is rife with corruption, excessive insurance costs and stuff like that. It's basically do one thing or the other. Don't do both. Don't do both. Either you have it public or you don't. And if you're going to do it, fine. Do a national health care, fine. We'll do a vote on it. But this Obamacare, Republican, it's way more complicated, way more overregulated, and that's why. So in that one capacity, yeah, I would say that the European, and not just Scandinavian models, but the European models, they spend a hell of a lot less on healthcare. So they kind of do that well. Another thing is that their corporate taxes. Corporate tax rates in the Scandinavian countries are about half that in the United States. A little bit more than half, but in the 20 to 25% range. In the United States, we have corporate tax rates of 40%. So they encourage innovation, production, creativity. They don't hate employers. They just don't. Another thing I'm going to give the Scandinavians, they're more mature. They're harder working. They just, and they'll work, and this is where it's almost too bad for them, because they will enslave themselves. Because we just should work. That's the good Lutheran Christian thing to do, is work. I don't care. And they're taxed. They're taxed at rates above 50%, most of them anyway. So over half your income goes to other people. Now that system can easily be taken advantage of. You see that, I see that. People not in Scandinavia see that. Especially the immigrants you guys got coming from Ethiopia and Somalia over there in Sweden. They realize that very clearly. So different cultures can see the huge flank that's open that can be taken advantage of, but it is their culture, their homogeneity, their society that leads them to work in spite of basically being enslaved to half the working year to paying for other people's shit. Now, we can debate why that is. They are in a cold climate, so you can fuck around. Like, you had to help out your fellow brother and man, and over the thousands of years living in cold climates with a very short growing season, you could not fuck around. You had to help out your fellow human being. You had to help, take care of your own, take care of the village. So it would almost be a climatic environment that would force its economic environment for it to work in this area. But then, and this is kind of the larger point, is yes, it may work in Sweden, it may work in Scandinavia. Oh, where'd my notes go? Here we go. But we don't live in Sweden and Scandinavia now, do we? And what you will look at, what you will find is, yeah, okay, Norway's doing great because of oil. Sweden, the one country, is doing better than the others. They oddly don't mention Finland or Iceland. Did they mention Iceland and its fucking banking crisis? No, they conveniently left that out. And then Denmark, they don't mention that they have the good things that they've done. Lower corporate taxes. They're generally more pro-capitalism, even though they have high personal consumption taxes. They conveniently just look, see, free shit. They give out free shit, we give more free shit. Well, that's because these people are suckers and work really hard. When you take that model and you apply it to America, or pretty much anywhere else, it gets taken advantage of, right? In the United States, people just take advantage of the welfare system because we're not a bunch of, I wouldn't even say pasty white, transparently white, whitey of whites. So I'm too dark to go to Scandinavia. You apply it to anybody else, it just doesn't work. So you can say, okay, look at this, and they don't even have a full-blown communist. You could debate, is it socialist at 55% tax rates? Yeah, I'd say it's solid socialism. United States is at 40. It's not like we got 5% tax rates here. We're pretty close. But when they have taken socialism and tried to apply it anywhere but Scandinavia, aside from these 25 million, take a look at it. The population of the world is 7 billion and change. Scandinavian countries have 25 million people total. 25.5 if you include Iceland and its 500,000 population there, Reykjavik. Right? And they want to take it on something that works in, curiously enough, ice-cold, frigid temperatures and apply it everywhere. And then if you look at history, when they've applied it at other places, what's happened? Well, communism during peacetime killed 4 times that of the modern-day Scandinavian population through starvation. Pol Pot alone killed twice. Not Pol Pot. Mao Zedong. So when you look at it, the Soviet Union, China, North Korea, Laos, Vietnam, more recently Venezuela, Cuba, what's happened? See, they're cherry-picking the data. If they want to go and look at the success cases of socialism, even though it's kind of the statistical oddity. When you look at global history, socialism has a horrible track record. Horrible. It's horrible. There's Nazism. The war doesn't even come. The only thing is the bubonic plague that might have killed more people during peacetime as a percentage of the population. I would also say it's highly racist. They always pick the whitest. I'm giving you tongue in cheek here now, but they're incredibly racist, only picking on white countries. Any place else, and I remember, transparently white. It can't be, the United States is kind of white. Germany is white. All you gotta do is go a little bit, just go across the Baltic. It's the Baltic Sea. Yeah, the Baltics, the North Sea. Go down to mainland Europe, see how well that socialism shit works out. The Italians start fucking up. Greece, holy fuck! Greece fucked that one up. The pigs, Portugal, Italy. Is Ireland on there? I don't know if Ireland had a crisis. Greece and Spain. You get to the warmer climates, nice and warm Mediterranean area. How well does that socialism shit work out? Ethiopia, Somalia, the Soviet. Remember the communist days in Ethiopia? Hey, give money to the poor Ethiopians. You guys remember that in the 80s? Caused by communism. Was it just Zimbabwe? How's that working for you guys? If you want to truly be not racist, you would look at communism as a whole. You wouldn't leave out minorities. Venezuela, there's another one. And you would say, hey, what's the track record of socialism for the globe? Not just Whitey McWhite-Whites of the perfect transparent land. You know, this isn't like the Game of Thrones, all right? We got to apply it to people outside of Game of Thrones. But you see, especially white people, leftist white people, it's their religion. And they don't care how many Hispanics or blacks it kills or impoverishes or wipes out. They don't care. That's their religion. They want to believe in it. And they're going to look at Scandinavia and Norway and Ireland, or not Ireland, Iceland and all that. Say, look how wonderful it is. Even though Maduro and formerly Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, they're eating dogs and there's a shortage of toilet paper. See, it's okay as long as they can believe in their Christ. And they don't really care how many blacks or minorities, or not as white people as Norwegians that get killed, say, the Soviet Union. And they certainly don't give a fuck about Asians. Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Great Leap Forward, hello. Because it's more important they have the religion, and they're going to point out to this socialism Scandinavia model. It works here, we're just going to keep trying it. So this gets back to my original point. You can argue till your face is blue. These people do not care about whether or not this model is feasible or transferable to other countries. I mean, look at the United States. In areas where we have socialism, California, the black community, terribly sorry, minorities, all right? You get all the government handouts, you get all more government aid. Detroit, major metropolitan, major liberals here. How much more government money do you need before you realize how damaging socialism is? So we have pockets of socialism, and who suffers the most? It ain't white people in those Republican suburbs now, is it? Now, it's this harsh love you got to give. Like, look, free shit doesn't help. It doesn't help. It ruins you. It destroys you. So what I would do is say, okay, you want to look at socialism? We got to find out quick, does it only apply to homogenous cultures where it's very cold, it's part of their evolutionary process, it's part of their genetics maybe even, and it works in that little tidbit environment? Or is this a universal law of humanity that will apply everywhere else? Because I got news for you. I mean, what's China's 1 billion even back in the day? Vietnam is how many people? Russia's, 200 million? Ethiopia's got to be 150 million. Zimbabwe, 50 million? Cuba, I don't know what the population of Cuba is. Venezuela's got, 60 million people? There's a lot more people that have suffered at the hands or under socialist environment. Argentina is another perfect example. Those people keep thinking they're great, even though it's like, your country's kind of shit. Brazil, all right? How many multiple scores times more than the precious little few of 25 million Norwegians and Scandinavians that worked in these perfect laboratory conditions that socialism may have worked in, versus how many people have suffered, died, lived horrible standards of living in countries that just simply don't have the sociological, biological background as the Nordic and Scandinavian people do. See, but again, it points to the true evil of religious leftists. They don't care how many brown and black people it kills. They don't care how many not as white as the Scandinavian people it kills. They don't care if it ruins all advancement of Western civilization. They need to because they're worthless people in the end. Just like keep going back to religion. All religious people, no, not all, The vast majority of religious people are worthless. They have nothing else to point to in life. And whether you are a born-again Christian, a radical Muslim, a terrorist, a ardent feminist, a social justice warrior, an environmentalist, a vegan, you look at all these people, you look at their day life, their daytime life, what do they got aside from their religion? And what you're going to find is a lot of Americans and Westerners were so spoiled by the advances of capitalism that basically socialism is not affordable until you have capitalism. To afford you all this time to sit there and navel gaze, hey, we have free shit. I don't know, holding their iPhones. Capitalism sucks. I'm going to tell everybody on this capitalist-made device, created by capitalist energy. So they don't care. They're really evil, selfish people, and they're lazy. Because all that matters to them is to masturbate their minds about how great and wonderful people are because they advocate the theft of other people's money. And don't care how many people in history it wipes out. They don't care. Because they want to be patted on the head for being good little leftists and socialists. They will never take a critical view as to socialism's track record throughout history in other environments. They will always go and cherry pick the data because they have no interest in truth. They are zealots. They are fanatics. They are obsessed with their religion. I mean, you've seen feminists, they will live their lives, to waste their lives as fat, ugly, repulsive women, never enjoying family, never falling in love, never enjoying the company of a man. I don't even mean sexually. I just mean, hey, you like guys. Hey, how you doing? You can look at, I have a client who was stuck in the whole Black Power, escape to Africa, Black Panther involved, and we were talking, he's talking about how, like, these people are brainwashed, they waste life. You want to waste your life, having your life defined as hating another group of people, and you don't go out and have fun or play baseball or go fishing or maybe have friends of a different race? What kind of a life is that? These people are worthless, shallow, lazy, selfish, entitled, religious fanatics. And it doesn't matter how much arguing you do. It doesn't matter how much data you throw at them. It doesn't matter how much reality. It doesn't matter how many black or brown people die under the hands of socialism. It doesn't matter because these people put themselves above all other 7.2 billion people on the planet. They value themselves way more. They value their ideology and the laziness that feeds their ideology. Or, I'm sorry, it's the ideology that feeds their laziness and rationalizes their laziness and gives them value in their life because they're virtue signaling. I'm a socialist. I care. That's more important to them than how many people they wipe out because of starvation, just because it's below Denmark. It's like the whole world only exists at Denmark and up. Everything else, that doesn't count. Because I guess the socialists and leftists, not whitey McWhite people, and brown people and Asian people and black people really don't matter because if you look at it, it is worse than the bubonic plague. That is a plague that has killed more humans than anything else in the world. And it don't give a shit. Well, I guess it does give a shit because it works in the transparently white countries. But it does not give a shit about anyone else. It only seems to work up there. So if you guys want to play with something that's more devastating than all the nuclear bombs ever created, by all means, go ahead. If it makes you feel good and you can jerk off to yourself at night, fine. But that's the ultimate answer to socialism. Oh, good. Hey, Sweden for 20 years had higher economic growth than the OECD countries. Never mind that the other 4 Scandinavian countries didn't have that. That's all right. Let's just take that population of 5 million and apply it there. You know what? I do pretty well. White people do pretty well in the snow. Maybe you only need a shirt. Let's grab all those poor black people and force them to wear muscle shirts like we do in the winter and see how long that lasts. Or conversely, black people tend to do pretty well over in warmer climates. Let's have white people wear sweatshirts and go down the Serengeti and run 20 miles. You're just dealing with lunatics, frankly. You're dealing with arrogant, egomaniacal lunatics who do not care about humanity. They only care about themselves. So we could throw all the data. I got data that shows, I've pulled it, where you correlate government spending as a percentage of GDP. like they point out to Sweden. I'm like, well, that's good for Sweden. What's it look like for the rest of the world? And I've showed that higher taxes result in lower economic growth. I think the correlation is actually quite high, like 0.35, 0.4 even. So there is something to be said about government size as a percentage or as a function or a determinant of economic growth. No one cares about that. They want the free fucking shit. And they don't care how many people they fucking kill. But all while smiling and being nice. But I care. When you hear people say, I care, that means I care about myself and I don't care how many people fucking die so that I can have my free shit through socialism. That's it. That's all it is. You guys got questions, go to assholeconsulting.com. Let the old captain know. When you're ready for critical thinking, you can check out my other videos. If you're upset and pissed off I said some things that hurt your feelings, go back and jerk off to your social. Look in the mirror and say, I'm a good socialist. Go ahead. That's what you do anyway when you're in college. I'll see you guys later. Toodles.